And then I'm going to tell you about the day I got a railroad job. This will be the final chapter in my story about coming home from the Navy. It was the day I was hired at Southern Railway, was getting the medical stuff done to complete my being hired. As you recall in the last part of the story, my father had agreed to take me to Atlanta. The next morning around 9 a.m. we arrived at the Southern Railway office building at 125 Spring Street. And my father pulled up to the curb, parked right in front of the main doors. I looked up at the large gray building and told him, "The sign here says no parking." "I doubt you'll be here long," he said. "I will wait for you right here." It was obvious to me he had no confidence in my chance of getting a job there. I thought, well, there's a positive attitude, if ever I've seen one. I exited the car, entered the building, and was directed by the nurse at the nurse's station to go down the hall to the last door on the left, which I promptly did. On entering the large room, I saw 20 or so men sitting there waiting at two long tables. There were some signs on one table for trainmen, switchmen, and brakemen. On the other table had a sign for rail car repairman. I pulled up a chair and sat at the end of the appropriate table. Perhaps half of the men there to apply for jobs were sitting at my table. I thought, well, chances of getting a job now are much slimmer. I sure never expected to see this many folks looking for a job. There were two doors at the end of the room. There were passageways from one side to the other, obviously leading to other offices. A man entered through one of the doors and said, "May I have your attention, please? Today we're only accepting applications for trainmen, brakemen, and switchmen." He then exited through the open door. He wasn't out of the room good before there was a scurry of chairs sliding back and men suddenly decided they wanted to sit at the other table. I was now sitting along at the end of a 10-foot long table with lots of elbow room, and there were perhaps 19 men trying to squeeze up to the other 10-foot table, which was suitable for no more than half that many folks. I thought, let me sniff my armpit. I wonder if I got a case of body odor or something. A short while later, two men were entering the room from the same door the other man had. One was telling all the men at the other table to get up and follow him. As they all exited through the same door everyone else had, the other man approached me as I sat thinking, well, there goes the ones most likely to get a job. He asked, "What are you here for?" I held up the section of newspaper in my hand and said, "I'm here to apply for the rail car repairman's job." He tried to tell me something about not hiring them now, but I interrupted him by telling him, "Your ad specifically states." He interrupted me and said, "Have you ever been arrested?" I started to say, shouldn't the proper term be, have I ever been convicted of a crime? But I just replied, nope. He said, "You wait here." And he left the room. Sitting there alone in the huge room, I began to develop a complex. So once again, I sniffed my armpit. Surely I don't smell that bad. In a few minutes, the man returned with a stack of papers. He set them down in front of me and handed me a box of pencils and said, "Fill out these papers regarding qualification and job history, and then take this mechanical aptitude test." And he quickly left the room. I debated with myself as to whether my armpit needed a re-sniff, but I decided it was just their short and to-the-point way of conducting interviews. Filling out the first few pages regarding job history and stuff took a little while to do, but the fairly thick mechanical aptitude test was a breeze, and I finished it in under an hour. In a little while, the man returned and collected my papers, casually thumbed through them. I presumed it was to determine if the application went from this point to farther up the chain of command or to some waste paper basket somewhere. "Follow me, Mr. Parks," he said. I recall thinking these sure are some talkative folks around here, as I followed him down the hallway. I sat outside an office a while in a wooden chair, waiting to see if someone around there carried on conversations that consisted of sentences longer than 3 syllables, or if I was going to be shown the front door. After a short while, I was escorted into an office, where I met a man in a white shirt and tie, sitting behind a big desk. I shook his hand and sat in his interview chair. "I have your application here and the results of the test you took," he said, as I sat on the edge of my seat waiting. He paused a minute or two as if in deep thought and said, You have great qualifications and you're just what we're looking for. The last Carman school started over a week ago. But I think from looking at your results here that you're a very smart person and you'll have no trouble catching up. I'm going to push your application straight through, but you're going to have to get all the medical stuff done right away. So you're going to be busy the rest of the day attending to all of it. Get it all done and you will start school Monday morning. Welcome aboard, he said. Take these papers down to the nurse's station and you will be directed where to go from there. I shook his hand, crossed the room, had my hand on the doorknob when it registered in my brain like a bell going off. Ding, ding. Money, I thought. We haven't talked money. I turned and faced him. Just one thing, yes, Mr. Parks? How much will I be making? He glanced down at his papers as if he didn't already know and said the job pays $3.49 an hour. Thanks, I replied. As I turned the knob to leave the room, my brain was going like a little cash register. Ding, ding. Dollar signs. Ding, ding. Somehow I managed to get out of the room without shouting, hot diggity. I was thinking, well, I'm going to be rolling in dough. Now that's considerably more money than any fireman job would pay me. A considerable load of worry had just gotten a lot lighter. A short trip to the nurse's station followed where I filled out tons of forms. I was directed to go from there to Dr. Rice's office on Peachtree Street for a physical examination. About 2.5 hours after entering the Southern Railway building, I walked out the front doors. I looked for my father's car, knowing he had probably had to find himself a parking place somewhere. I walked down the street and finally found his car. He was sitting there circling ads in the newspaper. I got in the car and he was saying he had more places that I could consider putting in applications as well. I guess he assumed I had just put in an application and had no answer yet. You should go put in an application here, he indicated from his paper. I said, nope, can't do that. What I got to do is go to the office of this doctor on Peachtree Street. What, he said? Yep, I start school Monday morning. What does it pay? First words out of his mouth. What does it pay? When I answered him, his little built-in ad machine started running. Why, that's, a lot of money. I interrupted his brain strain and said, it's about $140 a week. And it's a whole lot more than what I made in the Navy. Pretty good starting salary. Thanks for bringing me down here, I said, and I thought to myself, a vacation would have been nice, though. Here I am home from the Navy 3 days and it's off on my own again. I guess it's true what they say, you can never go home again. In the past 4 years, I had been to many doctors and medical facilities. I had been poked and prodded and examined from head to toe many times, received lots of inoculation, and when I cut my hand half off somewhere off the coast of South America in the raging Atlantic, I had it sewed back together by a hospital corpsman who wasn't even a doctor. And all those times I felt secure in the knowledge that they knew what they were doing and they had performed their duties and procedures under sterile conditions. My visit to the old doctor's office was a horse of a different color, however. I entered the dark, poorly lit, dusty office. There were some old magazines laying there from some time back in the 50s. There was no staff, just an old doctor who looked like he would fall over if you didn't prop him up in the corner somewhere. It was like going back in time and walking into the scene from some old black and white Frankenstein film. He banged on me with a hammer for a while, I think just to see if I would say ouch. He listened to my heart with some old rusty stethoscope. He wrapped his rubber torture device around my arm and cinched it up tight. Guess he wants some blood, I figured out. But I couldn't see any of those metal things that you put sterilized needles in. He turned to an old white enamel wash basin and I thought, oh good, at least the old geezer's sanitary. He's going to wash his hands first. Instead of washing, he reached and picked up a large, old-time hypodermic needle off the back of the wash basin. I swear this is true, I didn't make it up. Where normally you might expect to see a bar of soap laying, he ran some rusty-looking water from the tap over it and began to shake it off. This ain't happening, I thought. I'm imagining things. He grabbed my arm and came at me with that old needle. The needle looked bent and dull. It wasn't even pointed. It was just a blunt end. Doc, shouldn't that thing be sterilized? But he had stuck me in my arm before I could get the words out. No, it's fine, he said as he withdrew a large volume of blood from my arm. Must be part of the routine here at the railroad, I thought. I want to see if I can take a little torture. Come with me, he said. I walked, and he stumbled down the hall. Dang, I hope this old geezer don't croak before we get out of here, I thought. We're going to x-ray you now, he said. We entered this room with a large x-ray machine that was old as the hills. He must have brought it with him from medical school he attended back in 1925. He began to x-ray every bone in my body from head to toe at every angle possible. The old machine made a loud buzz every time he took a picture. On we went. Buzz, 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 buzz. One x-ray after another. I became a bit concerned as I have had enough training in nuclear, biological, chemical warfare school to know that too much radiation is bad for you. Buzz. Damn, Doc. Buzz. How many rankings of buzz? How many rankings of radiation are you exposing me to here? No wonder he wasn't worried about germs on the needle. Hell, there ain't a germ on me alive nowhere. Buzz, buzz. Oh, not more than a couple hundred rankings, I reckon. I began to pull my hair to see if it was falling out yet. I should have brought my dosimeter with me. Dang. When I get to Dad's car, I'm going to drink half that bottle of Jack Daniels he's got under the front seat. In 2003, when fate lowered the boom on me and I was injured, my 34-year railroad career ended. At that time, I was making somewhere around $23 an hour. I'm now making up for lost vacations I never got to take. I rest, relax, and occasionally write a story or two. I even mow the lawn occasionally. I never did roll in dough because the cost of living kept a faster climb than my salary. But I get by and I'm still alive. What more can a man ask for than that? As a footnote, I am truly proud to have served my country in the time of war, and would do it all again. I would be in the line where they sign up for the U.S. Navy. Thanks for listening, my friend.